Hello.
Welcome. How are you? This is what day is it? Is it Tuesday?
Yes.
Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. And look who I have with me. Fiery Red. It's Fiery Red podcast. He's not a chick.
Nope.
When
it,
we
it
first
was a
met,
good grip, though.
he was like in my chats, and Fiery Red, I was like, oh, it's a hot redhead, and it took me the longest time. I'm like, I thought you were a hot chick, but it wasn't. So it wasn't to be.
No.
Um, So welcome to my little stream, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
honoring me with your time, and God bless you. And I will let's start out by saying, who is Fiery Red Podcast?
I am a musician in Minnesota who's also a man of faith. I know a lot of your chat and that probably know me from your chat or from that fundraiser we just did, but recently I was diagnosed with terminal cancer and cirrhosis that's affecting my body very much a lot lately. So it's kind of going the way we didn't hope it would.
And you're 43 years old, living in Minnesota. What is your denomination of Christianity?
Evangelical Covenant Church. It's a Swedish founded denomination.
Are you a Swede? You look a little red to me.
Partly, I'm definitely a mutt.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Yeah,
Yeah.
we're Americans, I guess. Um, so you came on, and I'll tell you, we had, just so everybody knows, there was a big fundraiser for Fiery Red because he's one of our dedicated chatters. He's kind of in this little strange community, which we can talk about in a little bit. This strange community of people that have connected through the internet, and not quite sure what to make of it. We need to talk about this, but they came together because Fiery Red is facing some end of life issues, and especially financially, and came together. And the fundraiser, the Give Send Go campaign. Give Send Go is a Christian fundraising kind of thing, and the Give Send Go set up, and they raised a lot of money, or a decent amount of money, to at least alleviate some of his financial problems. But we hope if you listen and feel the Lord's call, you can go on there and actually issue prayers too, and the power of prayer. So first thing I wanted to ask you about is that, because your faith is strong, and it's now having to withstand sort of that thing that we all look away from, but we're all going to have to face it. And what is your reflections on that? Because, as a Christian,
It's one of, like I say, I'll be fully honest, it's scary, even for me believing and being strong in my faith. It also kind of scares me sometimes because some of the progression is going to start affecting my mind, and that makes me nervous, but I'm going to keep on fighting until I can't anymore, and I'm going to keep trusting God. Whatever he wants to do, he's in total control. It has kind of been nice because not kind of been nice, but it's made me able to make peace with a lot of things in my life that I regret, and mend relationships with people that I never thought I wanted to see or talk to again. So it's been extremely helpful. And like I say, even when you guys all came out for my fundraiser, it's just nice being able to be part of God bringing people together to help each other out.
well, and you talk about, and what exactly is the diagnosis?
It is hepatocellular carcinoma, which is liver cell cancer, plus the cancer and former bad decisions in my life. I struggled with alcohol for a long time and self-medicated with it. And right as I was quitting, that was when I was diagnosed with everything. But between those two, it has scarred my liver. And now the third thing that's happening from that is called hepatic encephalopathy. And that is where your liver can't filter enough toxins out of your body that it's supposed to filter separate from your kidneys. And so that starts to affect your brain.
Now, are you in pain?
Some days, yes. It's usually where my liver is in my stomach that I can feel it. Plus, I have a thing because of the scarring where it's called ascites, and that's where fluid builds up in your midsection and usually goes down to your feet and everything and just keeps swelling up and up and up.
Now,
And so
you've been married. How long have you been married?
for 8 years, almost 9 in July, it'll be 9.
But no children.
No children, no.
And this is, and this is the one thing that I know that, there's guilt issues. It's funny because here you are facing this, and there's guilt issues that your loved ones are having to suffer. It's like you don't even think about yourself sometimes. You think about, I hate to place this burden on my loved ones, right? And talk
Yes.
about that a little bit and about how you feel that and maybe how you're dealing with it.
I'm still working through that myself, but luckily my family is very strong and are all members of the faith. Our church, even though it's a small one, is very strong. So I know my wife will have help when I'm not around.
Well, and see, this is the thing. I mean, I said we're going to have to bring the tissues for tonight's stream. And I also titled this, I put it, is the most important stream I think I will ever do. And, I thought about it, I'm like, why did I put that? I mean, it's like, sometimes you just write and it just seems correct. But, the reason I said that is because we are all headed for the grave. And the title of the stream is The Grave Robber, which we'll talk about in a second. But we're all headed there. And if you can look at it, it's like this is a terrible diagnosis at 43, and you've got a beautiful wife. But on the other hand, now you have it coming. You have an opportunity to address things in your life and to share to people we're all going to face this, right? So what sort of knowledge and pondering can you give us as a man of faith about that? We don't like to look at that. I mean, people love to look away from there, but we're all headed there. And you've got a gift of knowing it's coming soon. And now you can straighten things out and you can share. So give us a little more wisdom here on the.
Definitely. First two, I will say there is a slight chance of me being able to get a liver transplant. But like I say, with the other stuff going on, that's getting slimmer and slimmer. And that still would probably be at most 10 years, maybe. The rare extreme case would be 20. But it's as more things start to go bad, the chances of me even being eligible once I'm eligible drops.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying. So there's a Rumble rant. I'll post it because Rumble rants don't come across on StreamYard, but here it is right here. Hunter Brooks, $2. I've heard nanoglutathione can be kind of a miracle drug for liver issues. It's debated, but it may be worth a shot. Have you heard of this?
I haven't, but like I say, I'm on, it's mostly vitamins, but I'm on a couple of other meds. 2 of them are to help me get rid of the fluid in my body, and one is to help try to flush. It's mostly ammonia that my liver can't filter out. So it's basically a thing you drink that binds to the ammonia in your body and forces it out.
Well, here's some we might as well say hello to see who's hanging with us tonight. We got Shane Sousa, the ever-loving mod. He's great. JKD Buck 76, Lily, and MLS God of Law. Great. By the way, MLS did a great stream today. I really thought it was right on the money on the whole Nick thing.
He's been a huge supporter of me also.
Yeah, MLS God of Law. I got to meet him up in Tennessee. We went and he came, and he's the kind of guy that I really respect. He's like a real lawyer's lawyer. I mean, he's the practical guy. He's the guy you want. If you want a lawyer, a good lawyer, he's the guy. Good practical guy, willing to speak the truth. We got Slidey Pie and Lily, all the regulars, and we got Texas Jen, Murph's Turf, Hospice Jess. That's an interesting name.
Hey, Jess.
And we got Digger.
Hey, Digger.
Thank you, Digger. Good to see you. And Jay Liebgott, he loves me to say his name. Good to see you. I think sometimes I wonder if that's really his name. Maybe he's just making that just because he wants me to say that name, but I don't know. The alien and this one dickhead. I don't know about him. So anyway, all right. So we were talking about these end of life things, and you got to face them. Where was I going to go with it? Well,
I know what you had asked me about. What are my thoughts about what I've learned from going through this?
Sure.
And I know you and I had talked about it once before, but my biggest piece of wisdom, everyone, is leave this world without hatred in you at all, if you can. I mean, I would say towards people, like I'm angry at my disease. I'm not angry at God. I've made peace with several people I never thought I would, and it's been so freeing.
Well, let's talk. Can I talk specifically? Yeah. Because you had a prior marriage, right?
Yes.
And can I share a little bit about that? Because you had said to me that your ex-wife, you felt with everybody's like, you don't need to apologize to her. She needs to apologize to you, right? But you came back with something that was brilliant. Well, tell about that.
Well, my own family was mad. We were married for less than a year, and we both had our issues. I was not the perfect husband, but when all this happened, I decided to reach out through a mutual friend to her, and I apologized for my mistakes in our marriage, and then when people started giving me flack saying she should be apologizing to me, I said, well, it's not up to me. I can only do what I can do for me. I can't, if other people don't want to do that, they don't have to. I can't force anybody to do it.
Well, and we're talking about apologies. I don't think apology is quite right. I think maybe, and this is actually what brought me to my faith, was this very thing, was the passage in the Lord's Prayer, which is, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And I've said it a million times, and I can remember the moment that I was so full of hatred and I was so full of anger, and justifiable anger, which is easy. If you screw up, it's easy to forgive, but it's like, okay, I screwed up, I made a mistake. But when you're righteous and you get punished for being righteous, that's very hard to let go of, right? And I was rashly, I knew I needed to let go of it, but I couldn't. It was like in my heart. And God, when I heard that passage, God made a miracle and just lifted the hatred right out of my heart. Now I still remember, but I didn't forget. But I could feel it. Like the hatred was lifted. And it was forgiveness was a gift to me, and it was also the connection that I made on that was, I will be judged by the hatreds that I'm holding on to. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So that if I've sinned, I'm imperfect. Do I want to be judged by the hatreds in my heart? and it cleansed me. It was a miracle. And
Mm-hmm.
so the forgiveness is a give, it's a way, like, how do I wish to be judged? And that's the judgment that you should give back. Thoughts?
Well, for me, some people know I grew up working in ambulances and doing EMS work. My father, who I'm very much like in good and bad ways, but he was a police officer for a number of years. So I always grew up in this really legalistic Christian mindset. And even that, looking back, it cost me friends in high school and junior high or middle school, depending on where you live. But I can't believe the people I cut out of my life for dumb reasons. And we were all dumb kids too.
Well, yeah, I have a story in Prepare about my friend Mac. And Mac, I love Mac. He was such a nice guy. And he just had this one quality of undependability. He was the most undependable, unconscientious person I've ever met. He was just like, I'll call you tomorrow. And then I'm like, what time tomorrow? 8:00. Okay. And then I'm waiting on, like, oh, or I'll meet you. Yeah, we got to do something. We'll have to go shooting sometime. And I'm like, okay, great. And then he wouldn't show up. He was just terrible. But the thing is, and maybe 15 years ago, he'd never be my friend. It would just, like, that just wouldn't work. It would drive me nuts. But what he taught me, though, is I like the guy. He's giving me something. He has something to offer. He's a friend. And I need to accept him, the whole thing. If is that really too much to give, to sacrifice of myself in order to access this friendship? And once I reconciled myself that I'm not the greatest thing on earth and that some people are different, and then I can now partake in who they are and what they have to give to me. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of them I can't make peace with anymore, but again, that's out of my control.
Now, this hospice just asked, do you have things for yourself that you're holding against yourself that you still need to forgive? Are you working on that?
I'm trying, and even my own pastor and my worship leader would say I'm still a little proud in that way.
Well, here we got Becca. We got a lot of wisdom from the chat. The Gosney chat, man. This is a deep stream. This is not for pikers on Gosney streams. We tackle the tough issues. And I laugh. I'm laughing because life is joy, and you're here with me, and this is just a blessing to have you here with me. I hope you realize that you're giving a gift to everybody who's watching this, everybody sharing, and Becca Lynn's going to give you a little lesson. If your ability for compassion does not include yourself, then it's incomplete. That's pretty good.
That is true.
Yeah,
I'm learning. I'm getting better.
You still got to work on it. Well, now, and
Yep.
we talk about friends too, and I wanted to ask you about this because we've been dealing with a lot of, how do I say this? Like, we go to work and we've got people that we work with, and they're workmates or maybe associates or acquaintances, right? Now, I've got a set of very close friends that I can count on one hand, right? That are, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But then there's sort of a range between that. And this internet is so strange because, like, we've never met. Right. But yet here I'm getting emotional, and you've got me emotional several times, right? But I mean, who are you? You're just an image on the screen. You're not real. You're not. So what is this? How do you explain these relationships on the internet?
I don't know. You have to be careful with some of them because a lot of them lead to, like, emotional affair type things and all that. I mean, obviously not us. We're both happily married and straight, but it's nice because you can find people all over the world that share your faith and your values. For me, like, a lot of my family has moved way far away to like Florida and Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, so I don't get to see them much. Yeah, Hunter, I used to go there every year to
Hunter's,
Jupiter.
he actually did the which book did you? He's on the back of one of my books. Hunter's a good guy, and this is an example of like Hunter's my buddy. Hunter and I we've talked quite a bit, and I think we might even have done a stream together. And we met through this internet thing. And the neat thing about the internet is like we kind of reach out to each other. We have chats, and people that are watching this. I don't think people are going to watch this for fun and entertainment. They're people that are really thoughtful and think about morality, think about their faith. And so it's almost a self-selecting group of people that associate with each other through this internet. So there's actually some real value of making these connections. And Hunter's a good example. I went to Tennessee recently and met all that Tennessee crew, including MLS Law.
Yep.
And it's kind of neat to kind of put faces. And these people, we all got along because we already self-selected that we liked each other, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is having like-minded people. When for me, I have some close friends around me, but it's not many, and it's mostly people in my church. But like all my and now we do a breakfast every month, but all the people that used to work at the ambulance company I worked for that no longer work there, we do a breakfast once a month.
Oh, here's another interesting person, Hidden Hand Media. Do you know Hidden Hand? Let me show you something.
I don't, but
I did a stream with him a while back. Look at this. Silver Surfer.
Oh, wow.
Is that cool? I have it right here. But yeah, and like he's somebody I met through this and has quite a story about quite a story. You have to that's a whole different stream. But these people that come upon it, to me, there's wisdom to be found.
Yes.
From just people like this, the average people. I mean, the media is so full of lies, and there's so much garbage out there of trivia and stupidity and wanting to hold you around and entertain you and not really give you any kind of meat or understanding. And I find that topics such as faith and truth, and these are topics that interest me because it's like eating steak rather than potato chips. Not anything against potato chips, right? But yeah, sometimes you eat a potato chip. But have you now? You like we said, you're a man of faith. Why is it that you didn't just say, "Oh well, I've only got I've got a short time. I'm just going to descend into debauchery"? Why didn't you decide that? Why didn't you choose that?
It honestly never really interested me that much. I mean, like I say, unfortunately, I struggled with medicating with alcohol, but like other drugs never interested me at all. The wild lifestyles. I mean, I saw that on the streets all the time too when I was working in the ambulances. And you see what it does. But then you also think, oh, it'll never happen to me. Like my dad and my uncle have both been a lot harder drinkers for a lot longer, and they're fine.
Well, now, but this kind of brings up the next topic. And that is, we say we believe and we're men of faith or whatever. And what does that mean? Okay. So that's just a pronouncement. That's just words, right? But how you act, do you follow your beliefs? Do you say, and that's one of the things I want to talk about, because like when I just took my new job in Miami, I said, I'm not doing death penalty. And it's like, I could make more money doing that. Right. But it's like, wait a second, do I believe my faith or do I not? I was confronted with that really like, well, hey, you can make a lot more money. But I'm like, wait a second, it's either true or it's not. And kind of, I think it's a profession of faith for you to say, I believe that this is right and what you do matters. talk about, does God care about us on earth?
Definitely. We were created in his image. And I know with my addiction, I finally started seeing that I knew, I mean, Paul talks about it in the Bible about drunkards and the kingdom of God, and it's like I don't want to be this way anymore. And so, like I say, I was quitting that before. Well, I was obviously sick at that point, but didn't know it. But I wonder too if that was a push from God to give me more time, because even 2 weeks after my diagnosis, they'd put me on a med that took a bunch of electrolytes out of my body. And me and my wife were getting ready for work. And I just fell. And luckily, it was on carpet because I smacked the back of my head. But when I got to the hospital and they did my blood work, they literally had said, if it would have been a little lower, you probably would have had a seizure. And if you lived through it, it would have been worse than death. So it was it's weird to say it, but it really was a blessing.
Isn't that odd? But it's odd. But you're right. I mean, it's kind of, there's Christianity. It's such a bizarre, nobody could make this up. It's such and I remember Father Bill, my priest for many years, he used to talk about just meditating on the cross as a way to understand that this is a gift. And it's so hard because it's ultimate suffering, but yet it's a gift, and it's this kind of this duality that's it's unbelievable. And that's why it's believable, right? It's so out there. It's like no man would create this story, right? I mean, it's like God is at work. And you think of, and I've actually done that at some of my lowest times. And I think about Father Bill saying, contemplate the crucifixion and the cross and what Jesus suffered for us. And this was hospice just got me thinking about this. Jesus died for you, Red, but she's talking to you and he loves you. But Jesus, she's also talking to all of us.
Yes.
And we have to make the approach. It's a two-way street. God wants us to step towards him. I'm getting kind of preachy. I don't want to be preachy, but these things inspire me, and I think this is the way the brain works. So let's make it lighter. How did you first? Let's talk about me. How did you first stumble upon me? By the way, how did you become a fan or a follower?
I'm trying to remember which streams it was on. I know I saw you in the chats and then on a couple of shows, but I can't remember who all it was. I'm trying to think of what trial. I know it was one of the trials.
Okay, it's a Shane Sousa's firing away. And Shane, go get the give send put it in the chat, because I want to talk about what was your reflection, because the YouTube community, our little circle here of people, and a lot of them are in the chats here. There was this big, long, like marathon fundraising stream, and hit your give, send, go target to help you with your wife, because, like you said, feeling about your wife, about paying some bills and getting a little extra help in this tough time. I have a Rumble rant, Slidey Pie. I think I already did that one. I only see the one Rumble rant. Hunter Brooks, I think I did that one. So tell me about what was, because that happened, and I know it was kind of overwhelming. It was a long stream and a lot of stuff went on. Now that you've had a couple days or a week or so to reflect on it, what are your reflections on that?
I just am so grateful and so blessed, because so many people came to help and gave money to help. And like I've told other streamers and that, you guys all helped put a roof over our heads for another 2 months and got my prescriptions for another 3. Because I have like 9 things I have to take a day.
Here's the instigator.
Yep. Hey, Shenny.
She was instigating, so she organized it. So God bless you. That was awesome.
Yes.
But ultimately it was kind of a coming together, and people see somebody. It was pretty unusual. I'd say God was at work there. I don't know what's going on. And people ask me, like, I can't explain. I don't know this stuff. But what is there? There's a biblical quote about, if you believe, you see. If you don't, then you don't see it. It's invisible. And that's kind of the thing. It's like I have faith, and so when I see that, it's like miracles occur.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, the reason we put that amount was because of the cushion it would give me, because I'm waiting to hear on disability and stuff right now, and like Medicaid, or MNsure is Minnesota's version of that. But we didn't think we would hit our goal at all. And then everyone came out and helped, and the chat was awesome, and the people that gave were amazing. And it was fun. And that was the other thing, is I wanted that stream to be a fun one.
And it was fun. And that's what at this stream, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts a little more deeply and more personal. Here we got Digger 420, and Digger's wonderful. Digger's cool, man. She's kind of she's like a rock. Digger's like a rock of the internet chat zone, right? It was a blast. I had no idea. I've been sitting for 10 hours till the next day. It was a miracle. Stephen got and shows how wonderful this community is. Yeah, there's a neat little group here.
And Digger was the other one that really helped put it all together too.
And Becca says, and I cried at the end. I know, I'm resisting. I'm trying not to, I don't know. What are we going to say? And we got Jacob Castro, and we got Mrs. Kate Grift here. Yes. All the good folks. This online community is fascinating. I just find it. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't know. I mean, what is it? Because it's not, these are acquaintances, but they're not. And are they friends? Are they, I think maybe we should just accept people for what they wish to give in the spirit that they wish to give it.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you sharing your experiences, I'll share my experiences. And if it's something that you can take away, it's a nugget of a blessing, take it. If it's a little piece of evil, ignore it and toss it away. How do you protect yourself against evil?
Prayer and the Word of God. And I have a very good relationship with like my pastor and our worship leader, who will probably be our next pastor, at least if I have anything to help say about it. But because my wife and I are both members at our church and both help with the worship team, although I don't do that as much anymore, but I try to when I'm feeling up to it.
Well, and it's a gift to hear you speak to us. Can I reflect back? I think that we had one of our chat people, the best chat, I think the chat of the day or whatever it was, your forgiveness is not complete until you forgive yourself. That's really good. And I know that, you fight guilt, and especially towards the ones you love and what you leave behind, but, make peace with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what else do you? So to tell me this, let's talk music for a second. You say you're a drummer. What kind of music do you like?
Progressive rock, mostly. A lot of it. Like, I know we've talked a little about it before, but I know you say Dream Theater's a little young for you, but
yeah, it never quite got in. Everybody's like, "Oh, you like Rush? Have you heard Dream Theater?" It's like it's almost. I just never got into Dream Theater. I know that they're spectacular musicians, huh?
those guys were the ones that helped me propose to my wife. So that was a fun concert.
That's pretty cool. That
And
is pretty
then,
cool.
but
What
then
about
too,
Yes?
I've been a lot of growing up, Petra was and still is my favorite band. And I know you're a big fan
Well,
of theirs too.
for my first band I was ever in, we played a couple Petra songs. But now tell us, okay, so now that's a perfect. I'm glad you brought that up. And there's a reason this. I'm not like, what do I ask, Mr. Fiery Red? Petra. Petra is a Christian band, but it's actually like a good, real rock band. And
Yes.
they wrote a song called The Grave Robber. So tell us about The Grave Robber. Who is The Grave Robber? What do you mean by that?
The Grave Robber is about Jesus coming on the final day to bring up his people into the new heaven and the new earth. It is talking about how, in the grand scheme of time, life is just a vapor that's passing on this earth. And it also talks about how we will all be reunited together when we go to serve him for eternity. And it brings up the point of it. One of the lines of the songs is, there is one who has been through both heaven and hell, and the grave will come up empty handed that day. Jesus will come and steal us away. And so that's the grave robber making fun of death and saying, where's your sting?
Right on. And this was the you sent this Petra song to me, which I hadn't followed them in quite a while, and you've reintroduced me to Petra. And now I got to dig into them again, and because, like I said, the first band I was ever in, we played Petra, and the grave robber is a Christian analogy. It's Christ is the grave robber. That's that.
Yes.
The death is that ultimate fear that that wants to scare us, but Christ is the victory over death. And that's what the ultimate victory. And what we have to, and it's hard, and you're always testing faith. And this is the thing. I mean, people say, well, you have faith and your faith is strong. But part of it is, I think, humility. Because, and I talk about this, and I don't want to talk about books, but I mean, the thing is, it's part of what I do. I try to write my faith. And one of the sources of my faith is humility. And I think to say that my faith is so strong that it can withstand anything, I don't know. I mean, I can't, if I say that, it's like an oak tree that doesn't bend but breaks. Instead, I think you have to say, I'm humble in my faith. I pray and I humble myself before God. And if you do that, then I think you're much more likely to bend with the wind and allow God to take you where he wants you to go. What do you think?
Definitely. When I used to be a young EMT and working on the ambulances, you always think you're invincible. And I always thought, like, oh, when I go out, I'm going to be so brave and so tough and so strong. And it's definitely a different perspective now.
Well, you recommended Petra, and that the link is in Petra. The Give, Send, Go is in the thing. You also said you had a book that you recommended called
It's called Heaven. Yep.
By Randy Alcorn.
Sorry, my book lights on, or my ring lights on it.
Now, can you give us the give us the Cliff's Notes of why we should get Heaven by Randy Alcorn?
It basically goes through the subject of heaven, all the way from realizing your destiny and where you are going as a person of faith. It talks, and I mean, it's one where we can go by what Jesus and the Bible teach us, but going over friendships and that in heaven, and what we usually assume about heaven versus what the Bible actually says. Because a lot of it, like one of the first things it says, what we assume, non-earth, what the Bible says, new earth, and then it's unfamiliar and otherworldly versus familiar and earthly. But it's just a remade, same as our resurrected bodies, it's a resurrected earth that is pure and worthy of God. And even in the Garden of Eden, God walked with Adam and Eve.
Right, the original.
Yep.
And I think that that's the place that we need to get back to. And I think if you have faith, we will get back there. And that's the promise, and that's the grave robber, which
Yes.
is going back to Petra. Awesome. Well, music is wonderful. I mean, music to me, there's a certain transcendent quality to music. And as a fellow musician, I think, of course, you know what they say, they call people that hang around musicians a drummer.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
But you also play guitar, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, now what I got a question about, and this is a real selfish question, but
yeah.
Yes, the band Yes. Do you think Yes is a Christian band?
I don't know. That's
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's an affirming band title. I'll say, and in Prepare, I talk about like at my, that there's a song called Soon off of Relayer that's part of the Gates of Delirium. It's just a little vignette. It's part of the larger work. But it's so beautiful, and it's John Anderson singing "Soon, oh soon the light," and it's and it talks about the sun. Now, I've seen lyrical interpretations as "sun" with S-U-N, but I think if you substitute S-O-N, that song is quite profound, speaking a Christian message. Now, whether John Anderson intended that or not, I don't know. But how much is that important? To me, it speaks to my faith. What do you think? We have these debates. My friend Chris and I had a big debate about Christian music and whether or not, you should have to listen to, Jesus music all day, or whether you can dabble into like Bach, who is writing church music, right? But it's no lyrics. So is that acceptable in the Christian? What is your philosophy on music?
I would say most secular music, well, I don't know about the last decade or so at all, but a lot of it has the old same types of tropes. I also think a lot of Christian musicians today, a lot of them actually are not Christians. They go to that market because it's such a huge market, and then they hide who they are. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that's happened throughout everything.
Well, even in chats, like people say, well, I'm a Christian, and they want to attack your Christianity. They say, I'm a Christian. But I'll tell you, I think there's a lot of liars out there, because I don't really, they want to attack faith. And then they put this hat like, well, I'm a Christian, if you thought it, and they're basically testing you. They're trying to it's tough, because I mean, I'm just a sheep. I don't know my faith. Like I know it as best I do. How much do I really know it? I don't know. I mean, it's so infinitely complex and deep, and you can spend a lifetime of Christianity. But, but to me, I look at a little child, and a little child's going to go to heaven, right? And they don't know Aquinas. They don't have the theory of the transfiguration or whatever. They don't know any of that, but they're blessed, and life, Christ is still going to redeem them, right? So when I look at my own faith, I come at it with humility. So I can't answer your theological question, or I got some detail wrong on my philosophy. Is that really going to prevent the gates of heaven because I missed a question on the test? So we have to be careful on attacks on our faith, and put them in the place, and be humble, and know where we need to place our faith, which is in God, and be humble that we're not letting our egos get wrapped up in Christianity and say, well, I know Christianity and this is what it is and nothing else. Maybe think about that.
Definitely. And I think too, there are definitely lots of positive secular songs that, I mean, when I was in, I don't know if it was junior high or high school, was when Creed was really big.
Oh yeah. And Creed is a lot of Christian themes in Creed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then as soon as people started marketing them that way, they said no. And Evanescence was the same way with Amy Lee.
Well, isn't Alter Bridge Creed without the singer?
Probably.
Yeah. Here's a Shane brings up, this is another one of my favorite biblical quotes that people like to refer to.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they always forget the context of this biblical quote. And that is that with and I have a friend who's very wealthy and he's always feeling guilt because he's a Catholic, right? He's feeling guilt about his wealth. And he's always flogging himself with guilt over wealth. And then because he reads that passage and he says, well, the wealthy man is not gonna get into heaven, was kind of what he's saying. But the whole passage is none of us are worthy to get into heaven. I mean, really, the ultimate is, but with God, all things are possible. And that's the key. The end part is the key. It's like, okay, yeah, the rich aren't worthy, but neither are the poor, neither are you. None of us are worthy. Let's face that. We're just not. But with God, all things are possible.
Definitely. And that actually does remind me, there was an old Saturday Night Live sketch from the 90s where they were trying to build a giant needle so they could get the camel to walk through it.
Yeah, there's a technicality here somewhere, right? Typical human attack, right? Yeah, you are looking good, actually. I must say, you do look pretty good. And I'm glad you're feeling good. And we got Young Forever. I love it. I love this. I like everything about it. Who's this?
Oh, I just said, hey, Young Forever.
Young Forever. I love that. It's interesting because it's Carl Jung, who's like my favorite. Mm-hmm. You've got this pretty woman here, and she's complimenting us both, which how much better can you get? Perfect chat. Yeah, so if anybody, Shane, can you make sure to get that link posted? It's in the description. I don't know how much more time you want to give me, but I do want to ask you if you have what thoughts that you might have that we haven't touched on that you think are important.
This will kind of go back to the forgiving yourself, but just be mindful of the world and things that can get a hold of you that are not good things. You have to always bring yourself back to Christ's bearing.
Do you think that what we do matters in this earth?
Oh, definitely. It wouldn't be worth being here if it didn't. Well, we'd literally be nothing. And I truly hope, like, with what I've gone through, if I can help anybody get stronger or get help or fight their demons or bring somebody else to faith, like I can't think of his name from Hacksaw Ridge, the army medic, where he just kept saying, God, please one more, and he kept saving lives.
And I'll ask you this, okay, so people, you live a hard life, you've done a lot wrong. Is it too late?
Never.
There's a parable about that, and it's interesting because we Christians who have been living it now, I'm a relatively newcomer, so I'm grateful for the passage. But as time goes on, the longer I am, the more I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't seem fair. And that is that they have the wages, and the landowner, he pays the wages. Says, I'll pay you for a coin, let's say a gold coin for the day's work, and he keeps hiring people along the day, and they all get the same day's wage. And the guy comes in at the last hour, and he gets the same coin. And all the people that have been working all day for him, they say, wait a second, that's not fair. I got the coin, and this guy just comes in the last hour, works the last hour, he gets the same coin for the day. And people are like, well, what does that mean? That's just some stupid story. Well, what does that mean there, Fiery Red? Give us some biblical interpretation.
That literally means I truly believe whenever we come to God, he redeems us with the death and resurrection of Jesus. But I also would say you don't want to wait until you're at your last moments and hope you can get it, quote unquote, done in time, because then you're not even sincere. You're not doing the work.
Right. I think there's a robot chicken thing on Star Wars where the Emperor is falling into the shaft and he gets redeemed just as he goes down, and he pulls one out at the end. There's a lot of people that think that, they're like, I'm just going to pull one out at the end. You have to be prepared. And I think that living a Christian life is also a recipe for happiness. I get criticized a lot because I'm laughing and I'm happy, and even in the face of darkness. And people get jealous and they criticize. And Christians get this a lot. It's like, how can you be happy with all the suffering in the world? The only right response is to be the most miserable SOB on the planet, right? Because you're laughing. How can I laugh with Fiery Red? He's facing cancer. How can I be happy? And this is the thing. It's like, well, how dare you be happy? Fiery Red, you need to be morbid and sad. Is that really the way we should treat life?
Not at all. Live it, I would say, in a good way, as long as you can. I'm not trying to sound legalistic, but it's just the bad. It leads to the wide road is to death and destruction. But the narrow roads to life.
We have a Rumble rant. And he says, Hunter Brooks, my initial introduction was your talk with the Kurt debate on Racket's channel. I initially disliked you. I'm glad I gave it a chance. Oh, that's sweet. Also, INTJ is very disagreeable as well. Yes, I am. This is the thing, the secret that I try to keep concealed behind my politeness and happiness is that I'm in the top 1% of all disagreeable people. So I'm extremely disagreeable. I try to be polite, and I know that about myself, so I work real hard. But ultimately, I'm extremely disagreeable. And yes, Kurt, we had a Kurt debate on the death penalty, and you said you really liked the death penalty book.
Yes.
I think a lot of people have contemplated the death penalty after that book, and that was that was not a fun. I don't like getting into jousting matches with people, but old Kurt there, he's got it. All right, thanks, man. But it inspired me. It's like, well, I've got to be able to answer this question, and so that the book I think through writing, and so I've got another one I was telling you about. I've got another one I'm working on in my little break. Okay, I'm not going to bring that one up, you guys. Here's Digger again, and Digger's a wealth of wisdom, and Digger's our rock. Wouldn't you say, Dieter? She's like Peter, the rock. I love Peter. You know what I love about Peter? I relate to Peter. When Jesus is praying and he's like, come on, people, let's pray, and he's going to sleep, and then he went, oh wake up! No, this is really important. You got to pray. Come join me. And then Peter's going to sleep, and he's so weak and flawed, and I'm like, that's me, man. I am just. The heart, what is it? The heart is willing, but the flesh is weak.
And I was going to say, although
God for Peter,
he definitely went out in a brave way.
Oh, and we got Upon the Horizon here. God bless you, man. I'm really happy Upon the Horizon. This is, I don't know. You've seen Upon. He's a very wise man. Corinthians. Yes. Let's go ahead. Let's see what Upon. I haven't even looked at this, but I brought it up because it was Upon the Horizon. Corinthians 13:4. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in inequity, but rejoices in truth, bears all things, believes all things, and hopes all things, endures all things. You know what? This is a miracle. Let me just tell you, you've just witnessed a miracle here. I just told you about my book. The next book I'm working on, I have a collection of great quotes that I've collected over my career. And I'm assembling this book just because I got to keep my brain occupied. And I've been thinking, I need to find this particular passage to include in my quotations book. And here is Upon the Horizon giving me the passage and the citation. Now, am I delusional that that's a miracle?
No.
That's the very one that I've been looking for, and I just haven't had a chance to look it up. And here's Upon putting it right in here. Yeah, Fiery does have a great smile.
Thank you.
Yes. So what's the wife have to say about all this? How's she taking it? What's going on there? She over there? She can come on. Can she come on and say hello?
She can't right now.
Okay.
She had a long day at work.
All right.
But
just tell her we love her and we're supporting her. And
what do you think of it? Or
just say hello. She can.
Can you hear me if I speak?
Can you guys hear her?
I can hear her.
Okay.
Becca Lynn says, "Send her our love."
I just can't be on camera at the moment for certain reasons.
No problem.
But I am listening, and yeah, it's harder than I thought, I guess. I am exactly the epitome of the person that you're talking about, that just kind of goes through everything and acts like the happiest person in the world, even though there's a lot of crap going on. And this would be an example, but I find that a lot of it is me trying to be strong for him, but also for myself. I like to stay positive, and it's really hard to do that because if he goes through a hardship, and breaks down or whatever, I find myself doing the same thing. I feel more than ever right now that we are one, even though he's the one actually, dealing with the physical stuff and whatever. I am also dealing with his emotion too, the emotional part that he's feeling. I feel the emotion part of it too.
It's hard. It's harder for the other person. It's harder to. It's like, I can deal with this, but seeing your soulmate. I mean, you are one. You're married, and that's a joining together of two people, right? And therefore, and you are this individual, and I'll deal with my individual stuff. But then it always breaks my heart with your family and your loved ones. That's because it's part of you, and you have less ability to deal with it, or maybe it's I don't know, it's external and you feel powerless. Well, I understand. I mean, it's like whenever I get upset and people criticize me, because I get a little weepy sometimes, and I would get weepy about my friend Derek, and I get weepy about my son's friend who was just killed. And I'm, it's not that, it's like, who am I weeping for? Really, for my son's loss, and for my friend's daughter who was left behind. I think about them. I think about those things, and and so the feelings that you're feeling are exactly that. And Fiery, you actually shared that the hardest thing was the guilt that you had towards your family member, the people close to you, and she's feeling the same way. So maybe we should forgive each other. Say, I give you permission. I give you permission, and if I give myself permission, and find your way. And like that was such brilliant wisdom we had here. I mean, we have a good group of people, and
Yes, it's amazing.
yeah. That was Upon. Thank you for showing up. Yeah. Anything else we'd like to share? It's been an hour, and it's not a 10-hour podcast, but we've been an hour.
No.
I guess that's pretty good. We will see you in the chats, right?
Yes.
And so when Fiery Red Podcast is in the chat, this is who it is right here. And yes, it's so nice to share this time. I'm honored, humbled that you're sharing this time with me and sharing your story. It's a stand-up thing. We all have these issues. We all face these things, and we don't talk about them. We look away. But by looking towards it, looking into it, it can really help us solidify our faith. And,
yes.
And that's a gift that I hope that maybe that's the message coming out of this. It's like, let's look in the face of these tragedies and the death and all the stuff that life throws at us. Let's look directly at that and let our faith come from this. Say, okay, my faith is here, and put it right in front of us. Let that protect us from the evil. Let us cling to that, because if you cower from it and you don't use your faith, you don't exercise your faith, when the test comes, it's going to be weak. So exercise those faith muscles. How's that?
Yes.
That's pretty good. That was an original.
It is. Yeah. Nice.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. Let's just make sure I didn't miss anybody here. Yes. Okay. He's given me. I don't know how to do warnings. I mean, this is the thing. I don't really know how to do warning. It just comes up. But hopefully, replay crew, you're awesome. Replay. This is one for the ages. This is the most important stream I've ever done, and Fiery Red gave me the gift. All right. God bless y'all. I think we'll cut it off there and just hang out for a second. We'll talk a little bit. All right.
Yep. God bless you, Steve. God bless you all, chat.
Thank you.